Juan Carlos Bagnell here for Pocketnow, and I've had the new Gear 360 for about a week. I wanted to share some thoughts with it. First of all, it's always kind of frustrating when we call something the new product, though I totally understand that we couldn't call it the Gear 362, then it sounds like we're adding 2 degrees to a circle, and that's just even stranger. But again, we are talking about the new Gear 360. This won't be a proper review. We don't really feel that's fair to do an in-depth review on this product right now. We think the hardware is pretty well finished, but the software experience is definitely still super beta. Without further ado, here are our top 5 pros and cons in using the new Gear 360 to shoot 360-degree photos and videos. Let's start with the positives. At number 5, the redesigned hardware. I really think Samsung's nailed the look of this gadget. Soft around the edges, it's got a really playful look to it, a big inviting red clicky button. It just looks like it's about to go on an adventure with WALL-E, and I think that's great. Number 4, the Galaxy ecosystem. Like I said, beta software, but the pairing process between this camera and my Galaxy S7 was wonderfully easy. And every time you fire up this camera, the phone will auto-connect over Bluetooth, and it's really easy to get up and running using your phone as a viewfinder for the camera. You don't have to go through opening an app or trying to go through Wi-Fi settings. These two talk to each other really easily. Number 3, 360 photos and video are still super fresh. If you're trying to impress family and friends, or you're trying to create a new channel of your own, you want a fun hook to get viewers in, I'm a big fan of shooting panoramas, especially from phones where you can just really easily sort of swipe your phone across a scene. But as you're moving the phone around, you can introduce stitching errors, or someone can walk through and become some sort of mutant beast. Now, instead of completing that action of swiping your phone across, you pick up your camera, you hold it up, you hit one button, just like that, and that captured a full 360-degree view of the area I was in. As a brief aside, it's always kind of funny when you hand someone some kind of 360-degree photo and they're just sort of looking at the phone like, well, what is this that I'm looking at? And then you have to take your hands and sort of move them, and then they're like, oh. I get a kick out of that. I think it's fun. Positive number 2, that 4K quality. The new Gear 360 takes a noticeable step up in improving video quality. Again, more clarity, more detail really helps flesh out the scene that you're in. Those extra pixels go a long way towards immersing someone into that content. I mean, think about gaming. The fuzzier the image is, the more distracting it is to play that game. And the number 1 positive, you capture everything. One button press and the entire scene, the entire environment around you is saved for posterity. It really is kind of a head trip, and it definitely requires just a different way of thinking about how you shoot photos and videos. Normally I want to walk around and point my camera at things or pan over to things, and you just don't need to do that when everything around you is captured with one button press. It requires nothing of you more than holding it up and clicking the button, and that's it. That's all well and good, but of course, shooting on the new Gear 360 isn't all roses, so here's our top 5 cons for shooting on this camera. Number 5, the redesigned hardware. Sure, this looks like a Weeble, and Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. This thing falls down really easy. Samsung's solution is also not particularly elegant. They give you this sort of hemorrhoid ring that you can put on the bottom of the camera, and it'll do a better job of just sort of propping itself up. Instead, I've got a bunch of these little cheap bendy tripods, and I just instead will screw this into the bottom of the Gear 360, and I've got a handle, kind of like the original Gear 360, which can then be splayed out into some kind of stand to better prop up the camera if I ever want to set it down. Con number 4, the Samsung ecosystem. Sure, these two paired ridiculously easy, and I really do like how this app will communicate with the camera, but as of right now, this camera only works with Samsung hardware. We should see some support for iPhones, but I'm a little worried that any future support for competing devices is gonna resemble what Samsung's doing with their smartwatch strategy. I mean, sure, it pairs up with other devices, but some of those features that you would really want in a product like this might be disabled. If you're likely to stay in the Samsung ecosystem, NBD, but if you were hoping to pick up this camera and use it with an LG or with a Huawei, it might not work. Con number 3, 360-degree video is still pretty fresh. And by fresh, I mean raw. It's like the very early days of film. We're still trying to figure out what the new narrative or storytelling constructs should be when the viewer has control over where they're looking within the scene. Even in just shooting a couple silly little vlogs using 360-degree cameras, I'm routinely confronted by comments of people accusing me of not doing enough cool stuff with the platform or not pushing the boundaries on the platform. No one's really been able to articulate what I should be doing with these cameras, but they all have very strong opinions that I'm just not doing it right somehow. Con number 2, that 4K quality. So imagine, if you will, you're sitting down in your living room looking at your gorgeous 4K TV, you pop on some kind of 4K video stream or 4K Blu-ray, and you see all of that crispy, crunchy detail. It's all right in front of you in one little rectangular box, and it's gorgeous. That 4K resolution is stretched all the way around your head. So whatever you're looking at in that one little piece, that one little field of view, is probably lower than HD quality video. A little extra education needs to happen so that people understand what's going on when they fire up a 4K video and it still looks a little blurry or a little soft or a little fuzzy. At least we can start that discussion off, and I wholly expect that higher end cameras will probably be released by the end of this year, pushing up into 8K territory just for instances of content creation like 360 video. And the number 1 con to shooting photos and videos with the new Gear 360 is you capture everything. You capture your hand and your arm and yourself. So, don't go picking your nose while you're shooting 360 video. You capture this amazing scene all the way around you, and you capture that obnoxious guy who's always trying to make you sign petitions outside your favorite Starbucks. We've got to be careful about not being creepers with our new technology. You also capture that mother and that child that are out playing at a park. This creates such immersive content, but it also introduces a few etiquette problems that we're going to need to address. So folks, those were our top 5 pros and cons. Actually, reading through the list now, the pros and cons seemed pretty similar looking down each individual list point, which is odd. Almost like I planned on doing that. We're gonna be shooting some more samples with the new Gear 360. We have some links down below this video with a few of the things that I've already shot. You can also check out, if you really wanna dig in and you wanna try and see what this can be used for in a long form discussion, we did an episode of the Pocketnow Weekly podcast, 90 minutes of podcasting with Jaime, Jules, and Ricky Villacres from GSM Arena, just all in sort of a roundtable discussion, literally around this camera, and you can kind of get a feel for what it's like to be in the middle of a Pocketnow podcast, literally in the middle of a Pocketnow podcast while we're recording at 2 in the morning after the Samsung Unpacked event. And we want to hear from you. I know I was getting a little snarky, some of that criticism over people not expressing themselves with things they'd like to see in 360. Now's an opportunity to kick us some comments down below this video. What kinds of things would you like to see shot in 360 degrees? You can already find tons of videos like, hey, I'm driving in my car, or check out this sunset on the beach, but I'm sure you guys have some other ideas out there and we'd love to hear them. And we've got hardware that we want to compare for some interesting tests, so we want to make sure we're giving you guys some cool samples to look at. Drop that comment down below. Those are the kind of conversations I love getting into. As always, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for our full coverage of some of these hot new accessories coming down the pipe, and help us out with some sharing on your favorite social networks. For Pocketnow, I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, some gadget guy on Twitter and Instagram, and I will catch you all on the next video.